Michael Daniels, the CEO of Daniels Corporation, is known for his sharp business acumen and ruthless reputation in the corporate world. Despite his success, Michael feels disconnected from the reality of his employees' lives. He realizes that his top executives have lost touch with the company's values and that his employees are mistreated, especially the lower-level staff. Determined to fix the toxic environment within his company, Michael devises an unconventional plan. To gain first-hand insight into the treatment of his employees, Michael decides to go undercover as a cleaner at Daniels Corporation. His goal is to observe the true behaviors of his staff without the influence of his position. Disguised as a regular worker, he takes on the identity of Mike, a humble, soft-spoken cleaner. On his first day as a cleaner, Michael blends in with the custodial staff, sweeping floors and taking orders from the very people who report to him in the boardroom. He soon meets Rochelle, a kind and hardworking cleaner who has been working at the company for over a year. Rochelle's life hasn't been easy. She comes from a poor background and works multiple jobs to support her family. Despite her hardships, she has a positive outlook on life and treats everyone with kindness. As Michael works alongside Rochelle, he sees the way she is treated by her co-workers. Many of the higher-ups ignore her, and some even bully her, mocking her for her job and her shabby clothes. Rochelle, though hurt, never lets their cruel words affect her work ethic. Her resilience and quiet strength begin to intrigue Michael. As the days go by, Michael and Rochelle grow closer. They bond over their shared duties as cleaners, and Michael finds himself drawn to Rochelle's genuine nature. Unlike the women he's met in high society, Rochelle is down-to-earth, hardworking, and real. She doesn't care about status or wealth, and this makes Michael feel a sense of freedom he hasn't experienced in years. Rochelle, on the other hand, finds comfort in Mike's quiet presence. She doesn't know much about him, but she appreciates his willingness to help with her workload and his thoughtful nature. Slowly, she opens up to him, sharing stories about her difficult past and her dreams for the future. Michael listens intently, his heart growing softer with each passing day. During their breaks, Michael learns more about Rochelle's struggles. She dreams of finishing her education and one day working in an office, but her family's financial situation has kept her from pursuing her goals. Rochelle is determined, though, and Michael admires her tenacity. As they talk, Michael begins to feel protective of her and vows to help her, though he's unsure how to do so without revealing his true identity. Despite Rochelle's best efforts, she becomes a target for bullying within the company. The very people who work under Michael's leadership mistreat her because of her lowly position. Sarah, one of the senior executives, is particularly cruel. She constantly belittles Rochelle, mocking her appearance and even assigning her tasks far outside her responsibilities. Michael, disguised as Mike, witnesses the bullying firsthand. He sees the contempt his employees have for people like Rochelle, and it fuels his desire to change the toxic environment in the company. However, as Mike, there's little he can do in the moment. He watches with frustration as Rochelle endures the abuse without complaint, her resilience inspiring him even more. One day, when Sarah goes too far by humiliating Rochelle in front of other employees, Michael can no longer stand by. He steps in, defending Rochelle and reminding Sarah that every employee, no matter their position, deserves respect. Sarah scoffs, dismissing Mike as nothing more than a lowly cleaner. But her cruelty leaves a bitter taste in Michael's mouth. He decides it's time to start gathering evidence against the corrupt employees who have abused their power for far too long. Michael realizes that in order to fix the problems in his company, he needs allies. He quietly begins forming connections with the janitorial staff, many of whom have seen the worst behaviors from the upper management. As Mike, he is able to gain their trust, and they begin sharing stories of mistreatment, toxic leadership, and corruption within the company. These conversations confirm Michael's suspicions that the rot within Daniels Corporation runs deeper than he initially thought. Meanwhile, Michael's feelings for Rochelle continue to grow. She remains unaware of his true identity, but her kindness and strength have captivated him. He finds himself wanting to protect her not just from the bullies at work, but from the harshness of life. Rochelle, too, begins to develop feelings for Mike. but she doesn't believe someone as kind and humble as him would ever be interested in her. As their friendship deepens, Michael struggles to balance his secret identity with his growing affection for Rochelle. He knows he must eventually reveal the truth to her, but he's afraid of how she'll react. Will she see him as the same person, or will the revelation that he's the CEO of the company she works for destroy the trust they've built? In the meantime, Michael continues to gather information, knowing that the day of reckoning for the corrupt executives is drawing near. But before he can act, he needs to ensure that Rochelle is safe and that the changes he wants to implement will truly benefit employees like her. The stakes are high, and the clock is ticking. Michael's observations in his undercover role as Mike become more detailed. As he continues his cleaner duties, he notices patterns of behavior from his executive team. Certain managers are only kind when higher-ups are watching, while others openly mistreat lower-level employees without fear of repercussions. One particularly disturbing discovery is that Sarah, the senior executive who bullied Rochelle, has been manipulating company finances for her own gain. Michael's mind races with thoughts about how to address these issues, but he knows that revealing himself too soon could spoil his entire plan. He needs to collect enough evidence to confront the executives all at once, ensuring that they are held accountable for their actions. Every day, as Mike, he quietly documents incidents of corruption and mistreatment. But amid this, his bond with Rochelle deepens, causing inner conflict. Rochelle, unaware of Mike's true identity, confides in him about her increasing struggles at work. Though her love for her family drives her to continue working, she tells Michael about her desire to leave Daniel's corporation. The bullying and demeaning treatment from her colleagues, especially Sarah, have taken a toll on her self-esteem. Despite her resilience, there are moments when Rochelle feels the weight of the world on her shoulders. She shares with Mike her dream of finding a job where she can be treated with respect, and this breaks Michael's heart. Michael fights the urge to reveal the truth and offer her the world. However, he knows that doing so before he cleans up his company would feel wrong, almost like he's using his power to solve her problems. For now, he vows to stand by her side, even as Mike. As weeks pass, Rochelle and Mike grow even closer. Their friendship blossoms into something more, though neither of them fully acknowledges it. Michael finds himself thinking about her constantly, and Rochelle starts feeling fluttery whenever she's around him. She notices the small things. The way he looks at her, his gentle words, and his quiet support. One evening, while they are finishing their cleaning duties together, Rochelle opens up about her past. She explains how she had to drop out of college to support her family after her father fell ill. Her dreams of becoming a professional were shattered, but she never gave up hope that one day she could go back to school and change her circumstances. She looks into Mike's eyes, a flicker of vulnerability there, and says, "I just want to be someone who's valued, you know?" Michael, hiding his identity, feels a surge of protectiveness for her. He promises himself that once his plan is complete, he will make sure Rochelle never has to feel undervalued again. But at that moment, all he can offer are words of encouragement. "You are already someone amazing, Rochelle," he says softly. "You just haven't seen it yet." Rochelle smiles at him, and for the first time in a while, she feels like someone truly sees her for who she is. Little does she know, the man she's grown so fond of is far more powerful than she could imagine. As Michael continues his undercover mission, the toxicity in the company escalates. Sarah, noticing that Rochelle hasn't quit despite the pressure, increases her efforts to make her life miserable. She gives Rochelle impossible tasks, expecting her to fail, and spreads malicious rumors about her among the office staff. The other executives either turn a blind eye to Sarah's behavior or participate in the bullying. The mistreatment angers Michael, but he knows he has to keep his cover intact. As Mike, he tries to support Rochelle in small ways, helping her complete tasks and offering words of comfort. However, the tension begins to take its toll on Rochelle. One day, after an especially cruel interaction with Sarah, Rochelle breaks down in front of Mike. "Why do they hate me so much?" she asks, tears streaming down her face. "I'm just trying to do my job. I don't deserve this." Michael is devastated seeing her in so much pain. He wants to expose Sarah immediately and bring the whole corrupt system down, but he knows he has to be patient. Instead, he pulls Rochelle into a comforting embrace. "You don't deserve this," he says firmly, "and one day, they'll regret how they treated you. I promise." Rochelle clings to him, feeling a strange sense of safety in his arms. For the first time in months, she feels like she's not fighting this battle alone. As their bond deepens, Rochelle begins to see Mike in a different light. She's always appreciated his kindness and support, but now her feelings are shifting into something more romantic. Every time he smiles at her, her heart flutters, but she doesn't dare act on her feelings, believing that someone as kind and humble as Mike would never be interested in a girl like her. Michael, on the other hand, is struggling with his own emotions. His feelings for Rochelle have grown into something much deeper than admiration. He's fallen in love with her, but he's unsure how to proceed. He knows that once he reveals his true identity, everything will change. Will she feel betrayed by his deception? Will she still care for him once she knows he's the CEO of the company she works for? To make matters more complicated, the situation at Daniels Corporation continues to spiral out of control. The evidence of corruption and bullying is piling up, and Michael is almost ready to make his move. But before he can do that, he needs to ensure that Rochelle is safe. One evening, after finishing their shifts, Michael walks Rochelle home. As they stroll through the city streets, Rochelle talks about her dreams of one day escaping the struggles of her current life. Michael listens intently, his heart aching with love for her. He can't help but wonder what their life together could be like if she knew the truth. As they reach her apartment, there's a moment of silence between them. Rochelle looks up at him, her eyes filled with unspoken emotions. "Thank you, Mike," she says softly, "for everything." Michael hesitates for a moment before leaning in and gently brushing a kiss on her cheek. "Anytime, Rochelle," he replies, his voice thick with emotion. "Anytime." As he walks away, his mind is racing. He knows he's running out of time. Soon, he will have to reveal the truth. And when that day comes, everything will change for both of them. The atmosphere in the company continues to deteriorate as the bullying escalates. Sarah and the other executives, feeling untouchable, grow bolder in their mistreatment of the lower-level employees, particularly Rochelle. They start assigning her humiliating tasks, asking her to clean up personal messes in their offices, fetch coffee, and even belittle her in front of clients. Each day becomes a struggle for Rochelle, but she holds her head high and powers through, driven by her need to provide for her family. Michael, still posing as Mike, grows more frustrated with each passing day. His love for Rochelle has deepened, and watching her suffer at the hands of people who should be working to support her only fuels his desire to reveal his true identity and put an end to the abuse. Yet, he knows that he can't make his move until he has gathered enough concrete evidence to ensure that justice will be served. In the meantime, Rochelle's spirits are lifted by her growing closeness with Mike. Although she still doesn't know his true identity, she finds comfort in his presence. He listens to her, helps her with her work, and most importantly, treats her with respect and kindness, something she rarely experiences from others at the company. One day, as they're taking a break together in the break room, Rochelle looks at Mike with a mix of gratitude and sadness. "Sometimes, I feel like I'm invisible here," she admits. "Like I'm just a number. No one cares about what I have to say, what I'm going through. But you've always been there for me." Michael's heart aches at her words. He wishes he could tell her the truth, that she's far more than a number, and that he cares for her more than she could ever imagine. But for now, all he can offer is reassurance. "You're not invisible to me," he says softly. "You're one of the strongest people I know, Rochelle. Don't ever forget that." A company-wide event is announced, an extravagant office party to celebrate a successful quarter. The upper management uses it as an opportunity to flaunt their wealth and power, while the lower-level staff are expected to attend and serve the higher-ups. Rochelle, like many of the cleaners, is assigned to help set up the event, which is being held at one of the city's most luxurious hotels. The party brings out the worst in some of the executives, especially Sarah, who treats Rochelle like her personal servant. Throughout the evening, Sarah orders Rochelle to fetch drinks, carry plates, and clean up after the guests. Rochelle remains calm and composed, though it's clear to Mike that she's on the verge of breaking down. As Michael mingles with the guests in his cleaner disguise, he overhears snippets of conversation that solidify his decision to take action soon. Several of the executives discuss unethical business deals, brag about their lavish lifestyles, and mock the very employees who make their success possible. Michael makes mental notes of every conversation, knowing that these will be the final pieces of evidence he needs to expose the corruption within Daniels Corporation. In the middle of the party, Sarah once again humiliates Rochelle, this time in front of a large group of people. She spills wine on the floor and demands that Rochelle clean it up, making snide remarks about her lowly position. As Rochelle kneels on the ground, scrubbing the floor, Michael feels a surge of anger unlike anything he's felt before. He wants to intervene, but he knows that doing so as Mike won't have the impact he needs. After the party, Michael helps Rochelle clean up, his heart heavy with guilt for not revealing himself sooner. As they work in silence, Rochelle finally speaks. "I don't know how much longer I can take this," she whispers. "It feels like no matter how hard I try, I'll never be good enough." Michael stops what he's doing and looks at her, his heart breaking. "You are more than good enough, Rochelle," he says firmly. "And one day, they'll realize that." The day of reckoning is approaching. Michael has gathered enough evidence to expose the corrupt executives and dismantle the toxic culture within his company. But before he reveals the truth, he knows he must tell Rochelle who he really is. The guilt of keeping his identity a secret has weighed heavily on him, especially as his feelings for her have grown deeper. One evening, after their shift, Michael walks Rochelle home. As they stroll through the quiet streets, Rochelle talks about her dreams of a better life, but there's a sadness in her voice. She confesses that she's been thinking about leaving Daniels Corporation, despite needing the job. "I'm not sure how much longer I can stay in a place where I'm treated like I don't matter," she says softly. Michael knows this is his moment. He stops walking and turns to face her, his heart pounding in his chest. "Rochelle, there's something I need to tell you," he begins, his voice serious. "I haven't been completely honest with you." Rochelle looks at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Michael takes a deep breath. "My name isn't Mike. It's Michael Daniels. I'm the CEO of Daniels Corporation." For a moment, there's silence. Rochelle stares at him in disbelief, her mind struggling to process what she's just heard. "You're the CEO?" she repeats, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael nods, his expression filled with guilt. "I went undercover to see what was really happening in my company. I didn't expect to meet you, and I didn't expect to fall in love with you. But everything I've told you about how I feel is real, Rochelle. I care about you, more than you know." Rochelle takes a step back, shock and hurt written across her face. "You've been lying to me this whole time?" "I didn't mean to deceive you," Michael says quickly. "I just needed to know the truth about what was going on in the company. And now that I know, I'm going to fix it, but I couldn't go another day without telling you the truth." Rochelle shakes her head, overwhelmed by the revelation. "I don't know what to say." Before Michael can respond, Rochelle turns and walks away, leaving him standing alone in the street, his heart heavy with regret. In the days following Michael's confession, Rochelle avoids him at work. She's hurt and confused, unsure of how to process the fact that the man she trusted had been lying to her all along. Though she knows Michael's feelings for her were real, the deception stings too much for her to forgive him just yet. Meanwhile, Michael prepares to take down the corrupt executives. With all the evidence he's gathered, he meets with his legal team and lays out his plan to clean house at Daniels Corporation. The toxic culture that's been allowed to fester under Sarah and her cohorts will no longer be tolerated, and drastic changes are on the horizon. During a board meeting, Michael reveals his findings, confronting Sarah and the other executives with undeniable evidence of their unethical behavior. Shocked and enraged, Sarah tries to deny the accusations, but it's too late. The legal team presents a series of documents, recorded conversations, and witness testimonies that leave no room for doubt. Sarah and the others are fired on the spot, and Michael makes it clear that anyone who mistreats the lower-level staff will no longer have a place at the company. With the corrupt executives gone, Michael shifts his focus to creating a healthier, more respectful environment for all employees at Daniels Corporation. But despite the success of his mission, he can't shake the feeling of emptiness in his heart. Rochelle's absence weighs heavily on him, and he's unsure if she'll ever forgive him for deceiving her. One afternoon, as Michael is walking through the office, he sees Rochelle in the hallway. Their eyes meet, and for a moment, neither of them speaks. Then, with a sigh, Rochelle approaches him. "We need to talk," she says quietly. Michael nods, leading her to a quiet corner of the office. He waits anxiously as Rochelle gathers her thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot about what you told me," she begins. "And I understand why you did what you did. But it still hurt, Michael. You should have told me the truth sooner." "I know," Michael says, his voice filled with regret. "And I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I just didn't know how to tell you without losing you." Rochelle looks at him for a long moment, her expression softening. "I believe you, and I can see that you're trying to make things right. But it's going to take time for me to trust you again." Michael nods, relief washing over him. "I'll wait as long as it takes." As they stand together, the tension between them slowly begins to fade. Though their journey is far from over, there's a sense of hope that maybe, just maybe, they can rebuild what was broken. After their conversation, Rochelle and Michael find themselves in a fragile state of mutual understanding. Rochelle continues to work at Daniels Corporation, but things have changed. While the bullying from the corrupt executives has ceased, Rochelle is still processing the emotional fallout from Michael's revelation. She spends her days focusing on her work and avoiding unnecessary interactions with Michael, even though she feels the pull toward him. Michael, on the other hand, does his best to give her space, though it's clear he yearns for reconciliation. Meanwhile, changes within the company are already taking shape. Michael introduces a new employee support program aimed at fostering a more inclusive and respectful environment. He brings in new HR policies to prevent the kind of toxic behavior that had once run rampant under Sarah's influence. The lower-level employees, especially the cleaners and service staff, are given the recognition and respect they deserve. Rochelle begins to notice the impact of these changes. Her workload becomes more manageable, and she is no longer subjected to the humiliating tasks that once plagued her daily routine. The air around the company feels lighter, and for the first time in a long while, she feels like she can breathe. One day, after a long shift, Rochelle is leaving the office when she finds Michael waiting for her near the exit. His usual confident demeanor is replaced with a more vulnerable expression. "I've been thinking about what you said," Michael starts, his tone sincere. "I know I have a long way to go before you can trust me again, but I want to prove that I'm serious about making things right." Rochelle studies him for a moment, her emotions conflicted. Despite her lingering doubts, she can't deny that Michael has been working tirelessly to improve the company, and that she still cares for him. "I see what you're trying to do," she finally says, "and I appreciate it. But this isn't just about the company. It's about us." Michael nods, his eyes never leaving hers. "I know, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild that trust. I miss you, Rochelle, every day." There's a long pause as Rochelle contemplates his words. She wants to believe him, but the pain of his earlier deception still lingers. "I need time," she says softly. "I need to figure out what this all means for me." Michael's face reflects a mix of hope and sadness. "Take all the time you need. I'll wait for as long as it takes." As the weeks pass, Rochelle finds herself caught in an emotional tug-of-war. On one hand, she can see that Michael is genuinely trying to make amends, not just for her, but for the entire company. He's been transparent with her about his plans to continue improving the workplace, and he's stayed true to his word about giving her space. Yet, despite all of this, Rochelle struggles to open her heart again. She spends more time with her family, seeking their advice and support. Her mother notices how preoccupied Rochelle seems, and one evening, after dinner, she asks her about it. "You've been quiet lately. Is something going on at work?" her mother asks, her voice full of concern. Rochelle hesitates, unsure of how to explain the complicated situation. "It's complicated," she finally says. "There's someone at work, someone I care about, but I'm not sure if I can trust him anymore." Her mother listens quietly before offering her wisdom. "Trust is a fragile thing, Rochelle. Once it's broken, it's hard to mend. But if this person is truly trying to change, and if he's showing you that he's willing to do the work, then maybe he deserves a second chance." Rochelle mulls over her mother's words, realizing that deep down, she still harbors feelings for Michael. But the question remains, is she ready to take that leap of faith? The next day at work, Rochelle notices that Michael has been keeping his distance, though his gaze lingers on her from time to time. She can sense that he's struggling too, and for the first time, she feels a small spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they can find a way forward. Michael decides to take a bold step, hoping to reignite the connection he once shared with Rochelle. He sends her a message asking if she'd be willing to meet him after work for coffee. He doesn't pressure her, simply leaving the decision up to her. Rochelle hesitates when she reads the message, her heart pounding. Part of her wants to say no, to continue keeping her distance until she's fully ready. But another part of her, the part that misses their companionship, urges her to take the risk. Later that evening, Rochelle finds herself sitting across from Michael at a quiet cafe. The atmosphere between them is tentative, but there's an undeniable warmth in the air. Michael starts by thanking her for agreeing to meet him, and the conversation gradually shifts to lighter topics: work, family, and their lives outside the office. It feels oddly natural, as if they're picking up right where they left off before everything became so complicated. At one point, Rochelle surprises herself by laughing at one of Michael's jokes, and for a brief moment, the tension between them melts away. But as the conversation winds down, Michael grows serious again. "I want to apologize again," he says, his voice filled with sincerity, "for not telling you the truth sooner. I was scared of losing you, and I ended up doing exactly that. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I want you to know that I'm not giving up." Rochelle looks down at her cup of coffee, her thoughts swirling. She's still hurt, but sitting here with Michael, she realizes that her feelings for him haven't faded. If anything, they've grown stronger. "I appreciate your honesty," she finally says, "and I'm not saying I'm ready to just move on from everything that happened, but maybe we can start again, slowly." Michael's face lights up with hope. "I'd like that," he says softly. "I'll take things at your pace, Rochelle." As they leave the cafe, Rochelle feels a sense of cautious optimism. It's not a full reconciliation, but it's a start, and for now, that's enough. Over the next few weeks, Rochelle and Michael's relationship begins to slowly heal. They spend more time together outside of work, enjoying each other's company without the weight of their past hanging over them. Michael continues to show Rochelle that he's committed to earning her trust back, and Rochelle, in turn, starts to open up to him again. At work, the atmosphere has changed dramatically. The new policies Michael implemented have created a more supportive environment, and employees, both upper management and lower-level staff, are treated with equal respect. The days of bullying and mistreatment are behind them, and Rochelle finds herself enjoying her job more than ever before. One day, as Rochelle and Michael walk through the city after work, Rochelle feels a surge of gratitude for everything they've overcome. She glances at Michael, who looks more relaxed and content than she's ever seen him. "Do you ever regret going undercover?" Rochelle asks, breaking the comfortable silence between them. Michael shakes his head. "Not for a second. It was difficult, and I made some mistakes along the way, but if I hadn't done it, I wouldn't have met you." Rochelle smiles, her heart swelling with affection. "I'm glad we met too," she says softly. As they continue walking, Rochelle realizes that, despite everything, she's ready to fully trust Michael again. She's ready to let go of the past and embrace the future, together. Rochelle and Michael's bond continues to grow as they navigate their relationship outside the confines of the workplace. Despite their past misunderstandings, both are learning to trust one another again, finding a rhythm in their connection. Michael's dedication to changing the company's culture has created a more positive and respectful environment, and Rochelle's position, once marked by uncertainty and mistreatment, is now one of value and respect. But Rochelle still hasn't fully grasped the immense power and influence Michael wields as the CEO. One evening, after work, Michael takes Rochelle out for a walk through a nearby park. The air is crisp, and the city lights twinkle in the distance. They talk about their day, laughing about small things, enjoying each other's company. But as they stroll, Rochelle brings up something that's been on her mind for a while. "Michael, you've done so much to improve the company," she says, her voice soft but serious. "But there's still something I don't understand. Why did you go undercover as a cleaner? You could have made changes as the CEO." Michael's face tenses slightly. He's been avoiding this conversation, fearing that revealing his true motivations would make Rochelle see him differently. But he knows it's time to be fully honest with her. "I didn't just go undercover to change the company," Michael begins, his tone somber. "I did it because I needed to understand the people I was leading, really understand them. As CEO, I was so far removed from the daily struggles of my employees. I thought I knew what was going on, but I had no idea." Rochelle listens quietly, her heart swelling with empathy. She can see the sincerity in his eyes, the weight of the responsibility he carries. "And then I met you," Michael continues, his voice softening. "You were this strong, determined woman who worked so hard, even when people tried to break you down. I saw how unfairly you were treated, and it opened my eyes to just how toxic things had become in my own company. But by the time I realized that, I was already falling for you." Rochelle's heart skips a beat. She's heard Michael express his feelings before, but there's something different about hearing it now, after everything they've been through. "I never meant to deceive you," Michael says, his voice filled with regret. "I wanted to tell you the truth so many times, but I was scared. Scared that you'd hate me for lying, and scared that if I revealed who I really was, you'd never look at me the same way again." Rochelle reaches out, gently placing her hand on Michael's arm. "I don't hate you," she whispers. "I never did. I was hurt, yes, but I understand why you did what you did, and I still care about you." Michael exhales, relief flooding his expression. "Thank you," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea how much that means to me." As they stand together in the quiet park, Rochelle feels a sense of peace wash over her. They've come so far from where they started, and she knows that, despite the challenges they faced, their connection is stronger than ever. Just as things seem to be settling into a happy routine, trouble brews in the background. Sarah, the former head of HR who had been fired after Michael's undercover revelation, is not ready to accept her defeat. Bitter and vengeful, she decides to cause chaos in the company by leaking false information to the media. Rumors begin to circulate that Daniels Corporation is facing a scandal, one that could tarnish its reputation and bring down Michael's leadership. The media frenzy begins, with reporters camped outside the company building, hounding employees and trying to dig up any dirt they can find. Rochelle watches the chaos unfold from a distance, worried not just for the company but for Michael as well. At the same time, some of the employees who had bullied Rochelle during her time as a cleaner begin to re-emerge, attempting to stir up more trouble within the company. They try to undermine the changes Michael has made, hoping to return to their old ways of exploiting their power and mistreating lower-level staff. Michael, who has been working tirelessly to address the false accusations, is determined not to let the company's hard-earned progress be derailed. But the stress of handling both the external media storm and the internal sabotage begins to take its toll. He's exhausted, both physically and emotionally, and Rochelle can see the strain wearing on him. One evening, after a particularly long day of dealing with the media, Michael confides in Rochelle. "I don't know how much more of this I can take," he admits, rubbing his temples. "Every day, there's a new attack, a new lie being spread. I'm trying to fix things, but it feels like I'm fighting a losing battle." Rochelle listens, her heart aching for him. She knows how hard Michael has worked to transform the company, and she refuses to let him go through this alone. "You're not fighting this battle alone," she says firmly. "We're in this together, remember?" Michael looks at her, his eyes filled with gratitude. "I don't deserve you," he says quietly. Rochelle smiles, leaning in to kiss him softly on the cheek. "You deserve everything, Michael, and we're going to get through this together." Determined to help Michael, Rochelle decides to take matters into her own hands. She begins investigating the source of the rumors and quickly discovers that Sarah is behind the media leaks. Armed with this knowledge, she confronts Sarah directly, demanding that she stop her attempts to sabotage the company. "You're ruining people's lives," Rochelle tells her, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "All because you couldn't handle being fired. Michael gave you a chance to do the right thing, and you threw it away." Sarah sneers, refusing to back down. "You think you're so smart, don't you? You think just because you're with Michael now, you can boss everyone around? Newsflash, Rochelle. You're nothing but a cleaner. You don't belong in his world." Rochelle's heart races, but she refuses to let Sarah's words shake her. "I may have been a cleaner, but that doesn't define me, and it doesn't make me any less worthy of respect." In the end, Rochelle's courage and determination pay off. She gathers enough evidence to expose Sarah's schemes, and with the help of Michael's legal team, they manage to clear the company's name. The media frenzy dies down, and order is restored. Michael, who has been watching Rochelle's bravery throughout the ordeal, is in awe of her strength. "You saved me," he tells her one evening after everything has finally calmed down. Rochelle smiles, leaning into his embrace. "We saved each other." With the chaos behind them, Rochelle and Michael look toward the future with hope. The company is thriving under Michael's leadership, and the new policies have created a supportive and inclusive environment for all employees. Rochelle, no longer a mere cleaner, has been promoted to a higher position within the company, where she continues to help improve the lives of others. One day, as they stand together in Michael's office, looking out over the city skyline, Michael turns to Rochelle with a smile. "I've been thinking," he says, his tone playful. "Maybe it's time we take the next step?" Rochelle raises an eyebrow, intrigued. "The next step?" Michael grins, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "Will you marry me?" Rochelle gasps, her heart racing as tears fill her eyes. She nods, unable to speak, and Michael slips the ring onto her finger. As they kiss, the city lights twinkling behind them, Rochelle knows that they've finally found their happily ever after. Through all the challenges, the secrets, and the heartache, they've come out stronger, and their love, once tested, is now unbreakable. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more delightful stories.